Hi. This week the topic is less is more, and it's very much about how we see and how we claim how we see it, and in how we see it makes all the difference in the world. Initially what showed up was a sense of impatience for things to come and they haven't arrived yet, and this sense of impatience very often hides all of that which is absolutely fabulous in our world. We have air, we have food on the table, we have a roof over our head, or good friends, or whatever it is, but this striving for the more that is yet to come, and no doubt will arrive. In the process of the impatience, we lose that wellness that resides in us with where we are at right now, and it stops the openness of the receiving with the impatience, and life becomes frustrating because we start to live in the impatience rather than the absolute okayness of what already is, with a joy and an openness and a trust of that which is yet to come. It's a totally different way of living, same outcome, very often same outcome, and one that can come in joyfully, like we said in the past, this aspect of effortlessness. That effortlessness is less is more in many ways, but we're still very tainted by the history that we've been in for centuries, that's been passed on. So focusing on discord, so less is more also applied to if we ruminate and go over and over things that have upset us in the past with circumstances and scenarios, and we just repeat them, and they become a present day living that really weighs you down. And if less of that is done and more in terms of looking at what am I doing in the future, what are the steps I'm taking, where is it that I want to move to, that I feel present in myself and have the ability to move to, and to do that, less of ruminating, because you can't move from that space of ruminating to where you really want to go. I will link a clip that was on Facebook of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's a short clip that explains this very, very well. So the other one was parenting, and less is more is a very interesting thing here, because in parenting, one parent can go in one direction of good cop, which ends up being quite enabling, and the other can be seen as bad cop. And in the less is more, it's being less enabling, so that the child itself can come forward with more effort, because the more you give to the child, the more the child accepts it and moves back with it. Not all children, but there is a tendency sometimes for children to enjoy things to be done for them, or things to be made okay for them, instead of saying, come on, it's okay, you can do more. But if one of the parents, this really irks them that the child isn't doing enough, and come on, you can do better, and then there is not only a discord in the family, it's a discord between the parents that then spreads to the family. So in a way, less is more is both ends need to do less of that and come more to the centre where they can support each other. If Dad says X, Y, Z, you can go, Dad's got a point there. You could do a bit more, and you are capable to do something when you're being asked. And for the father also to to say what a good job the mother is doing, and maybe and it's actually good for the parents to hear that support from each other, because without hearing it, they can go into their own camps, and then the children play one off against the other, and one becomes bad cop and one becomes good cop. So less is more in that regard. For both parties to come to the middle is a really good way to go and to support each other and to see each other and to find a coherent place in parenting with the children, which I think is very important. So the other one, excuse me, which was also relationship based, was when one of the party really want the other person. Whatever is happening, they feel a drifting, and the wanting becomes so painful that judgment comes out, and they want them to do more, or show some sort of sign that they're in the relationship still. And with that kind of push, it tends to push others away rather than towards them. No matter how much you say you love them, you want them, whatever's happened before, I can let it go, let's start anew, whatever it is. There is less is more, excuse me, to be present and to allow the other to work it out in freedom. They can work it out themselves. But if it is with more of a wanting, and that persistent wanting is there, wanting a relationship that isn't there yet, can be the same. It ends up pushing people away. Just you being present shows you're there and that you want to be there. It's about letting them find out whether that wanting is there as well, rather than wanting things to be different and the other party not being able to work out whether they want it or not. So less is more. So by trusting the other person to work it out in freedom, one way or another, sometimes is more powerful, and may not necessarily be true in all circumstances, but in some this actually does apply. So the other aspect that showed up was a bit like the first one I spoke about, going to the past a lot. You know, we all have circumstances, I certainly do, where I can go into the past and the extraordinary efforts made that did not turn out, and in hoping that it would, go further and further into staying in the space and finding that capacity in yourself to stay or to continue, only to see that it didn't work out. So in doing that, there is much to claim, much good to claim in that, because these epic efforts, when seen through capacity rather than outcome, that capacity is extraordinary if you apply it moving forward in how you're living life from here. In fact, that's how we get to a point where these things happen. It finally hits that this is what it is, there's no way around it. All those efforts were misplaced because for one way or another we didn't want to see it. We saw our capacity rather than seeing what was really going on. But the efforts are extraordinary. And if they can be applied and seen in how you can become your own best friend moving forward, and how you can use those same skills in a way that will have extraordinary outcomes. And that certainly is very possible. But it's about reframing and seeing those skills. It's like seeing it here, seeing it there, and actually joining it and seeing the skills rather than the outcome, and know that you can move forward in an outcome that does serve you and suit you and reflect more of who you are, rather than the skills being used by others rather than the skill being used for yourself. So less is more. And with that last one, what happened actually is that because this was so didn't turn out the way they wanted it to be turned out, that what happened was more effort was put in to change things in the hope that if they put more effort in, things would change, when in fact the effort on this side was already more and could have been much less. So in that, realizing that it isn't about doing more to change it, it's about realizing that sometimes less is the answer. Hope that makes sense. Less is more has got so many ways that it can show up. So many ways, and you can probably think of some yourself. You know, on a plate of food, we know that not to eat till we're full, because if we eat till we're full, we actually have overeaten. It takes about 20 minutes for the food to register that we were full 20 minutes ago. So, and you know, decluttering always feels better when decluttering takes place. So I know of somebody who was lucky enough to purchase a holiday house, and it was very zen there. Only the very few things that they really wanted were placed into it. And then they loved it so much, it felt so good. When they went home, they continued it until the similar feeling was at home as well, because it was so pleasant. So the card that came up, no essence, tested up for us collectively, but the card that tested up was wellness. Wellness is a feeling on the inside which emanates outwards like love. Wellness is a state of mind which emanates outwards like love. In fact, wellness is love. If you are unwell, physically or emotionally, seek out and remedy the cause, and do not just band-aid the symptoms. For wellness is your natural state of being. Do not settle for second best, and all will be well. Take care, lots of love, catch you next week.